Hey guys, welcome to Meghan Grace DIY. Today's video, I'm going to take you through how I do measurements anytime I'm preparing to costume a new show. Now, I'm going to take you through quite a few different types of measurements, and it might seem like there's a lot more measurements than you've ever taken before, but the way I look at it is it's always better to get more measurements of a person and have too many than to not get enough measurements and have to call your actors back and try to track people down to finish out your measuring list. I've included in the description section the spreadsheet that I use to track all my measurements so you can download it and use it yourself. In this particular video, I'm going to take you through women's measurements, and in a separate video, I'm going to show you how I do men's measurements. So let's get started. In the spreadsheet, it starts out by asking to put the character name and the actress's name next to it. After that, I like to ask my actresses a couple questions. I ask them how tall they are, and in my case, I'm 5'10", and what size shoes they wear, and I wear a size 10 shoe. Now, it's really important to make sure you get, especially the shoe size right off the bat. Depending on where you're working, some theaters want you to find shoes for your actors and actresses, and some do not consider that part of your job. So it's, again, it saves you a lot of time to have that measurement readily available to you, rather than have to email actors later on, wait for their response, and then you've got to order shoes and wait for shipping time. It's just going to be a benefit to you earlier on if you get that measurement written down. Now we're going to start with the head. And for the head measurement, you're going to come around the back of the head, and we want to make sure that it's in a straight line. And if you have an actress that has particularly full hair, try to pull it down a little bit. If they have a ponytail on, please ask them to take their ponytail out, so that way you're not getting any extra fullness in that measurement. You want the measurement to be, I'm going to come a little bit closer to the camera, fitted but not pulled really tight. You want it to be just gently fitted around the head. Next, we're going to do the neck. So again, if your actress is like me, with the big long hair, you're going to ask them just to kind of pull it out of the way or put it back up in that ponytail. Okay. And the neck is one area that when you measure it, you are going to actually measure it so there's a finger width left in there. You don't want a neck measurement that's like right up against the skin, because necks are very sensitive areas, and if you make a costume that is like right up against the neck, actors are going to complain that they feel like they're choking, especially because if it's a musical, your actor or actress is going to need to expand their diaphragm and expand their vocal cords. So right there. A woman's sleeve measurement is going to be slightly different than a men's sleeve measurement. A men's sleeve measurement is used to purchase dress shirts, so there's a very specific way to do that. The women's sleeve measurement, it doesn't necessarily equal itself to any type of in-store measurements. So this is basically you're just taking it to make sure that suit jacket lengths are correct, or dress sleeves are correct, or you need that measurement because you're making a custom look for your character. So we're going to go from the tip of the shoulder right to the wrist, right where my Fitbit is. Next, we're gonna do some core measurements. We're gonna start with the bust. I ask my actors and actresses to stand like this, and I let them know ahead of time we're going to be doing 4 or 5 measurements in this area, so that way they can stay standing like this versus every time arms up, arms down, arms up, arms down. Just give them a little bit of a heads up what's coming next. So for the bust, we want to go across the fullest part of the bust, like this. Again, not pulling too tight, just gently fitted across the top of the bust. A quick little note when it comes to the bust is you want to double check that the actress is wearing the thinnest type of bra that they can and not a sports bra. Sports bras are going to push the breast down and you're going to get too small of a measurement. Unfortunately, if they're wearing like a Wonder Bra or a push-up bra of any kind, that's going to give you, again, an incorrect too great of a measurement. So just double check, make sure they're wearing a thin fitted bra. Next, we're going to go to the under bust, which is basically right underneath the smallest part of that rib cage. Now, fun fact here is if you're ever trying to figure out what your bra size is, you take the band measurement, your under bust, and then you take your bust measurement, you subtract the band from the bust, and however many inches it separates is how many cup sizes. So for an example, if this measures 32 and this measures 34, you would be a 32B. Hopefully that makes sense. For the waist, we're gonna find the natural waist. A lot of girls wanna say their waist is down here. The waist is up here. And if you have any trouble finding it, you look for where you squish when you bend. So right here is the natural waist. Standing up straight, and again, not too tight. We're gonna have it just gently sit on top of the skin. When it comes for hips, you might wanna have your actor turn to the side, and you're gonna look for the fullest part of the bootay. Like that. Now, before we go on to measurements that are a little bit more off the beaten path, I do want to recommend one thing here. Sometimes actors or actresses will say, oh, I already know my measurements, when you come in to measure them and they want to tell you what their measurements are. I strongly recommend you do the measuring yourself. One, you want to make sure all your measurements are consistent among your actors, and two, especially in the time period we're in right now, those measurements might be old, and people's bodies, they shift all the time. So you want to make sure that you're doing your own measurements to make sure that you have an accurate picture of what size that person really is. I'd also very strongly recommend that if you have another person who's recording for you, that you don't shout measurements out. A lot of people are really body sensitive and they don't want necessarily their measurements screamed across a room. So just in a lower tone, you tell the person who's recording for you, and then you go right back to measuring. I also tend to pull actors out one by one and take them to a bit of a more private space, even if it's a corner of the room. So again, I'm keeping them feeling safe and I'm not broadcasting their measurements to the entire cast. For this next set of measurements, I'm going to need to phone a friend to help me measure myself. So I'm going to have Martin come back out here to do a little bit of the measuring for me. So if you have a roommate, if you have someone who can help you do your measurements, these are ones that are a little bit more difficult to get an accurate measurement yourself, so I definitely recommend having somebody help you measure. So the next measurement we're gonna do is waist to the floor. So again, we're looking for that natural waist, squish, and we're gonna measure all the way down to the outside of the ankle to the floor. And this is really good, especially if you're doing floor length skirts or dresses. Okay. Next, we're gonna do waist to the knee, which is the same part, squish. Yep. And we're gonna go right down to the knee. Again, very important measurement when it comes to doing skirt lengths. I'm gonna turn around, hopefully you guys can still hear me. We're gonna do the middle of the neck, that's the nape. And we're gonna go nape to the small of the back. Good. Then we're gonna go nape to the knee. Good. And then nape to the floor. Shoulder measurements are not as big of a deal when it comes to women, but it's a good, again, having too many measurements is not a problem, having not enough is a problem. Good.
Yep.
We're going shoulder to shoulder. We're gonna do the thigh and the calf. So I ask my actors, put one leg out, we go around the fullest part of the thigh, double check their pockets, make sure they don't have a cell phone or anything in their jean pocket.
Okay.
Yep, and then the fullest part of the calf.
Derby legs.
Good. All right, and that actually concludes the measurements that we have to do. So thank you very much for being my assistant. And last thing I ask actresses is what size dress they normally wear. And this is going to be a very wide number. You're probably going to get a range and not necessarily an actual number because stores cut their dresses differently, but I do like to at least have that range in my head. So I say, what size dress do you wear from a store? A 6, an 8, or a 10, and I like to write that number down. That concludes today's video on taking body measurements. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comment section below. And don't forget, in the description section, I've got a free spreadsheet for you to download. If you'd like to learn more about my channel, feel free to follow me on Instagram, Pinterest, or Facebook. Or you can follow this little guy, my new friend, Bailey. He's got his own Instagram called Bailey the Baked Potato Frenchie. Are we yawning? Yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please feel free to hit the subscribe and the notify button. And as always, happy sewing. That's me getting the nerves out.